Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Devon and today I'm going to share with you how I make my hamburger steak with gravy meal for my family. This is a dinner that the family really enjoys. It is pretty simple to put together. I'm going to share with you the ins and outs and how to make a yummy, delicious meal for your family. First, what I do is I cut up my vegetables. I always like to cut up my vegetables prior to starting to work with my meat, especially if my meat is raw meat. So I chopped up, thin sliced, about a cup of white mushroom. And you can use white mushroom or whatever mushroom that you prefer to use. And I also used about a quarter, a little bit bigger than a quarter of a white onion that I thinly sliced. Now the mushroom as well as the onion is totally optional. You can add them in or leave them out based on your family's taste, okay? Now we have here 2 pounds of ground beef, and this is lean ground beef. And I'm actually using the 93% to 7%. So it's 93% to 7% ground beef that I'm using. Now in my ground beef, what I like to do is I like to go on and just kind of break up the ground beef, and in there I'm adding in some water. I'm using a half a cup of warm tap water. Okay, so that's a half a cup of warm tap water. The reason why, and I haven't added in my spices yet, the reason why I like to use warm tap water, and I just put in a little bit at a time as I'm mixing around and breaking up my ground beef, is that I have found that a little bit of warm tap water, just a little bit of warm water, just really helps to soften up the ground beef, as well as it helps to make the ground beef a lot more tender when it cooks and as you're eating it. Now we're going to add in our spices. So we're going to be using some onion powder, some garlic powder, seasoning salt, and pepper. And hey, if you are new to my channel, welcome. And if you're a returner, welcome back. And I would like to invite you to subscribe to my channel. It is free. And what I do on my channel is I am showing you different things that I make and bake for my family. I share them with my family, my friends, neighbors, and this is just such a joy. And I cannot wait to share all the wonderful dishes that I have in store for you. And also in the description box below, as always, I'll have a list of all the ingredients you need to make this wonderful dish in your home. So I've put in so far a half a teaspoon of the onion powder, a half a teaspoon of the garlic powder. That was a fourth of a teaspoon of the black pepper. Next, we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of some seasoning salt. Just like that. We're just going to mix everything together once we have it, all of our seasonings with our ground beef. We're also going to put in a fourth of a teaspoon of salt. I like using kosher salt, but if you have regular table salt, you can use that as well. And then once we have everything in there, go on and mix everything around. Go from the bottom to the top. So make sure that we get all of our ingredients in there. Now, if you prefer, you can also do this recipe with ground turkey. Okay, so you can also make your steak with the ground turkey as well. Now, once I've mixed all the ingredients together, what I like to do is I like to section it off. Now, the 2 pounds of ground beef is going to give me 8 patties, kind of depending on the size. I do them round about the size of the palm of my hand. And so for the palm of my hand, I end up having 8 patties that we're going to have, and that's going to be perfect for my size family. This is going to be enough for 4 to 5 people easily, and if you have a few children or a couple of kids as well, that should be enough. If you want to add to it, you can always boost up the ground beef if you're going to be cooking for a crowd. Now, once I do that and I have my patties kind of separated, I like to make them, I don't make them too thick. And so I just kind of press them, and you want to press your patties, form them in a circle as best as you can, and I just pat them just like that. And then I just kind of pinch any edges that are split. I just want to have a nice round circle as best as possible. And I'm forming my patties and making them about a fourth of an inch thick, or you could kind of look at it as, say, if you took 2 quarters. If you took 2 quarters and you stacked them on top of each other, around about that thickness, okay? Also, if you are going to be making the hamburger steak dinner for more than 5 people. And I talked about that additional pound of meat that you would also add just to make more dinner, that you want to also add a little bit more seasoning. Now in the description box below, I'm going to have those ratios of that additional seasoning for that additional pound of meat that you would add to the recipe, okay? Also, if you've ever had Salisbury steak and Hamburger steak are very, very similar. But the difference between the two is that with Hamburger steak, you're not adding that additional egg or breadcrumb. With Salisbury steak, typically you have your ground beef. You also add in some breadcrumbs, and you also add in egg as well to your spices. So if you've ever had Salisbury steak, it's really similar to the Hamburger steak, but those are the differences right there. Now what we do is I have my nice pan. I added a little bit of butter, about a tablespoon, let it melt, and then we're going to add our steak, our Hamburger steak. Now when you're adding this in, you're adding it to the pan, you want to have it on a medium to low heat. The reason being is you don't really want to brown your hamburger patties like you would if you were making hamburgers to have on buns and stuff like that. You don't want to brown them in that nature. You just want to cook them nice, slow, and evenly, but you don't want to brown them like you would if you say you were making hamburgers for the family. And so what I like to do is I like to keep that heat on medium-low, cook them gently, let them just go on and release some of their juices into the pan, because some of those juices we're going to be using to make our gravy. Now, once our patties have thoroughly cooked and they are firm in the center is when I go on and I take them out of my pan, and we go and we make our second batch of our patties. Now, if your pan starts to get some more brown bits in there, go on and turn your fire down to low. I turned mine from a medium down to a low because we do want those patties to cook kind of gently. Rotate your patties in the pan, and then when those become nice and firm, we're going to go on and take those out as well. Now the liquid that's left in our pan, we're going to drain off all the liquid in the pan, but we're going to add back in 1 tablespoon of that liquid that we have there, okay? So I'm just adding back in 1 tablespoon to my pan. Now to that, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of butter, and this is what we're going to use to saute our mushroom. Now if you were also going to be sauteing, so we're going to be sauteing our mushroom that we chopped, and that's 1 cup of the chopped mushroom. Now also, if you were going to be using the onion as well. Now I had sliced up onion as well, but y'all, my husband came in the kitchen and he said, this time can I leave out the onion? And so I said no problem. So I left out the onion, but if you were going to be using those sliced onions that I sliced earlier, you can also add those to the pan, and you would saute those along with the mushroom. Now once my mushroom was nice and soft, I took those out and I added in, because now we're building our gravy, I added in 1/4 of a cup, and that's 1/4 of a cup of regular all-purpose flour. Now to this, we're going to add a couple of more tablespoons of butter, because we want to have our flour, we want to go from that flour taste and consistency to a nice smooth consistency. So I'm going to blend this around, and I'm also going to add a couple of more tablespoons of flour, because we don't want it clumpy. You want it more smooth as you're building up your gravy, just like this. Now if the bottom of your pan starts to get more brown than what you want, my bottom of my pan was brown a little bit quicker than I needed, what I did was I turned my fire back down to that low, okay? Now I have my 2 cups of beef broth. When you're making gravy, you do it a little bit at a time, and you want to constantly whisk. This is going to make sure that you're not going to have any lumps in your gravy. So I added in a little bit of that beef stock right there. You can use beef stock or beef broth. I'm using my whisk, and I'm whisking everything around. When you're building your gravy, you do not want to add your liquid all at one time. What will happen is your flour that you had in there will start to clump up, okay? So you just add a little bit at a time. And now we have our cooked hamburger steaks. We're just adding those right in there. I have my pan is on a nice low. We're going to just cover all of our nice hamburger steaks with that delicious gravy that we had just made. and we're just going to keep on doing it just like that. Now, once we have all of our hamburger steaks have added back into our pan, we're going to also add in that sauteed mushroom, the mushroom we sauteed earlier. And again, if you've also sauteed some onion, you can go on and add those in as well, okay? Now, to recap on when we was making the gravy, because I want to make sure y'all have this gravy right when you are making your dinner, because it comes out so good, y'all. We did that 1/4 cup of flour, and then I added in a total of 4 tablespoons of butter. I did 2 tablespoons, mixed everything around. I added 2 more tablespoons of butter. And then when our flour and butter got that nice peanut butter color to it, we added in those 2 cups of beef broth, and you can use either beef broth or either beef stock, and you want to whisk it and add that in a little bit at a time, okay? Now, to our dish, we're also adding in some fresh chopped parsley. That is also optional, but I like a little bit of fresh chopped parsley. And this is our dinner. This is our hamburger steak with gravy, with mushrooms in there, and it looks so good. Do you see that gravy? We have some mashed potatoes that I have made to go with this. Our hamburger steak is nice and tender, y'all. The fork goes through it so easily. It is nice and moist. I'm going to get y'all bite ready, and we're going to see how we did. Let's put some gravy on there, our mashed potatoes, just like that. And this also goes great with some white steamed rice. That gravy and that hamburger steak, it is so good, y'all. That's your bite. Okay, now let me see how we did. Y'all, this is so good. The seasoning is perfect. The gravy is just so smooth. It is so good. I hope you give this recipe a try. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what are you waiting for? Go on and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video and appreciate the content, don't forget to show it some love and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to click share and share this video with a friend or family. Well, that is it for me today, y'all. And remember, it is always good when Devon is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.